So the appointment, you were up against some quite interesting opposition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I did think that. I think that basically, I looked at the list of people. I knew who was going, and I looked at the list, and I thought really there was only one person who I thought would get the job if I didn't, and that was Dennis Salmon.
Yeah.
Because Dennis was part of Essex County, and they were highly influential, and they were they were winning everything. Just like, but I mean, Barnsley were the same. So it was like, I thought it was 50-50 between the two of us. What I didn't realise, and I'm just, it could have changed the whole aspect of it, that Dennis, he wouldn't fly.
Okay.
So I think that would have influenced the board, because it would be difficult for him to get to certain places. But I think that that made a difference. To be honest, I'd like to think it was my ability or what I'd achieved, but that would be against him, I'm sure. But yeah, and then of course there was Ray Mumford.
Yeah, an interesting character.
Yeah, well, yeah. Ray was a particularly good angler. There was Graham Joyne.
Yeah, from Lancashire.
From Lancashire, he was another. I mean, he was a good angler.
He would have known all about Bloodworm and Joe.
Exactly. Yeah. There was Ken Ask.
Yeah, from the Starlets.
Yes. Who was the other one? There was Malcolm Burdett. Malcolm Burdett was, I'm sure, I don't know whether Malcolm went to the interview, but Malcolm Burdett was working with me then as with Barnsley as our PR officer, and he did a great job, to be honest. And who was the other one? Tell me who the other one was.
No, I'm not sure.
The other one, I think
we've done them, haven't we? That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, and it was. I just think that the interview went quite well. So, you come away with a bit of confidence, because I'd done plenty of interviews before and interviewed people. And so I thought to myself, well, I've got a chance here. But I didn't know about Dennis Salmon, and that was basically the only one that I was concerned about, to be fair. Yeah. But Dennis was Dennis was a very, very good and a good organiser. So that was it, yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the first two World Championships were must be mixed emotions looking back on it. Of course, for those who don't know, am I right in thinking that Bob made his debut in '84?
Yes. Yeah. Well, what I did, I mean, I think that. I think that my method of selecting the team and also of managing the team was better than Stan's. That's me, just thinking that. In so much as I thought that you have to look at the big picture. I couldn't start with a brand new team. I had to have experience there, and so. I obviously, you keep Kevin Ashurst in. Ian Eaps was at his prime as well then, and Dennis and Tommy. I knew of their ability because they were part of my Barnsley setup, because I was still captain at the time.
Got you.
And I stood down. In fact, they asked me to stand down to concentrate basically on this. And Tommy took over as Barnsley captain. I took along Dave Roper because of his bloodworm expertise. Alan McAtee, and I think also it was who was the other one? Anyway, I selected. It was Dickie Carr.
Dickie Carr.
And they drove to. I don't think it'll tell you in there, will it?
No.
He'll have not put. He's only put the team down.
That's from a bit later. Just going to. Yeah, they've only put the team.
Yeah. Well, there's
Dave in 1985.
That's Alan Mack.
Yeah.
But I took those, and who else did I take anybody else? No, I didn't take anybody else. That was it. And it was like it was when I took Bob, obviously.
Yeah.
And Bob came in because I knew I'd been speaking to Kevin and I'd known Bob from Ireland, and I thought, right, he's going to be perfect on here, because I'd been out and looked at the venue, which I think is quite important. And so when I came back, it was not going to be an out-and-out Ludworm venue.
Yeah.
So I said to Kevin, Kevin, are you going to come out with me? He says, no, you can do the job yourself. You're good enough to do that. What do you want me for? Which I thought was a bit ridiculous, really, because I thought to myself, what's he said that for? Why on earth did he come with me? But I know that Kevin was quite a big fan of Stan Smith. And I just wondered whether Stan, whether it was that influence that he didn't want to come along and be, to be seen to be helping, rather than, just being part of the team.
Yeah.
Might be just me thinking that,
yeah.
But, that's what I thought. And it set off all right, and Bob did brilliantly. And we were just, if like, I think, you see, you've got a photograph here of a guy, Clive Branson.
Yeah.
Right? Welsh wizard.
Yes.
Absolutely brilliant angler. And Clive, I'm sure it was Clive, he foul hooked a chub. And that cost us the World Championships. Because if he hadn't have had that, we'd have moved up by another point in the match.
So this was in 84.
Yeah. And the other thing was, as well was, you could count trout, because there was a limited number of fish in the river, in the waterway in Switzerland. And trout counted. And I know Ian Heaps caught a trout, and that trout that Ian caught was not as big as somebody else's trout. And it was like, and you were thinking, how can we get that other point? How can we get? And we did anyway. We finished up losing it, joint on points and losing it on weight.
Yeah.
To Luxembourg, and Luxembourg have never been in the frame since.
No.
They hadn't been in the frame very often before it either, because it's a country of like few people, so obviously less anglers to choose from.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
they performed on that day. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
And, perhaps you were worried that the Stan Smith jinx had already kicked in.
I did, absolutely. Yeah, I thought to myself, well, it's typical, isn't it? Stan's had 5 or 6 silvers, and here we are, first one in, silver. How unlucky can you get? And I've said that Stan was unlucky, and I think that was, again, I'm thinking to myself, it's never going to continue, this is it. Please don't. Yeah.
And so we moved to 1985. We're on the Arno in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
History made.
Yep. It was a good match. It was. I'll tell you how we. I think that the one thing that won us the match was Dennis White, who always used to take some red worms with him wherever he went. Didn't matter where he was going, he'd take red worms, Dennis, and those worms got us catching lots and lots of catfish. But yeah, and we there was 2 sections where these catfish were really, really important, and which was the first 2 sections below the bridge, below Ponte Vittoria, the bridges. And Bob was on a chub area. He didn't do very well, Bob. I think he how many points did he get? 10, something like that, 9, whatever.
Yeah, 10.
Yeah, and Tommy won his section on the opposite bank, catching chub. And then below the bridge, it was really deep, and there was Ian Heaps and Dennis, and without the catfish, we targeted catfish in those deeps, because there were basically not as many other fish there. You can imagine Ian with his he's always been good with sliders and things like that, and so we targeted catfish as much as anything, and that definitely won us the championships. I know Tommy won his section, which was brilliant because he was catching. It was spot on for Tommy, fishing a waggler. And then Bob struggled a little bit because he was next to end peg. I think he was next to end. And I finished up with him moving in his peg, because at that time, we still can, you can sit anywhere in your zone. Wherever the lines are, separating anglers to anglers, you can fish anywhere.
Well, I never knew that. I always thought I'd sit in the middle.
No, you can move at any time. during the match, and he finished up moving down a little bit. But he got 10 points, and then I think we had Tommy with 1, Dennis and Ian. What did they get? 1 and 2, and Kevin was. Kevin. I'll tell you what happened with Kevin. It was strange. Dave Roper come. Dick, you've got to come down here. You've got to come down here. I says, what's on? He says, we've got a right problem. He said, the Trabuco's fish has gone in Kevin's peg, and we've objected to it. He says, and everybody's creating mayhem down here. So I've gone down, and I got stoned with the people of that. Watching, they were throwing stones at us because we were objecting to this fish. Because at that time, if a fish surfaced, it was disqualified.
If it surfaced in somebody else's zone,
and it had done. It had done
in 1975. I remember famously reading.
And it had done, but. Anyway, it finished up. It didn't matter because we'd won it anyway. We beat them with a point anyway, so that was all right. It was good. But we got stoned. Dave Roper himself got stoned for objecting, and one of the other managers was there as well, and he agreed. So when we found out that we'd won, it was like, don't bother putting an objection in. But we should have done, because then you set the precedent, don't you, for the following years? So it was brilliant, absolutely. To beat the Italians in Italy and to win the first one it's the best. Even coming back to England later in '94 wasn't, in my opinion, it was fantastic, but it wasn't as good as being
that first one.
Yeah.
Absolutely understand that.